Okay, I'd like to call the York County Planning and Zoning Committee to order. And looks like we have to approve the minutes for November 24th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all right. Okay, so let's discuss, Jonathan. I'm assuming you're gonna do that for us, split zoning.
Ma'am. So just a reminder of our conversation, it's been a few months, but here is a map of all the split zone parcels in the county that have blue outlines around those parcels, so that any parcel that has more than one zoning district included inside of it, so quite a few inside of the county.
There are quite a few.
So as we talked about last time, we gave you all a couple of options on how to move forward with a potential text amendment to treat those parcels, and some different strategies, and the one that you settled on was the majority rules approach, so that whichever district has the highest percentage of the area on a particular parcel, all of the rules that would govern that district apply to the full parcel, rather than having to worry about, I've got 3 different zoning districts, 3 different sets of rules, 3 different setbacks, 3 different buffers, all that kind of thing. So with that in mind, on this screen here is the proposed amendment that we've put together for that. So we have a couple goals. So the first being to reduce the number of rezoning applications, because as you'll see, a lot of folks might have a big parcel, and they might have, percentage of an acre that is in another zoning district. And it's, right now by code, they can't combine that with another large parcel that's with another zoning district. So they have to rezone first. Mr. Atkins has an example.
Perfect it then.
So the second goal of this is to add flexibility for folks that are looking to either buy a sliver of property from their next door neighbor that might just happen to be in a different zoning district, or they're looking to combine some property together. They might own several under their own ownership that might be in multiple districts, so trying to make that easier. One of the things we also wanted to do is make sure we're guarding against abuse. So we don't necessarily want to have folks that have commercial intent or industrial intent and be able to buy property that's adjacent to them and have a de facto rezoning. So we wanted to guard against that. And we also want to limit introducing new unintended problems. So we're trying to make something easier here. We don't want to break something else and cause another type of problem we'll have to solve down the road. So those are the goals here. So the text here would be inserted into how to interpret the zoning map. So here the language is, if one or more district boundaries divides a parcel, the district governing the greater portion of the parcel shall apply to the remainder of the parcel for the purposes of applications for new development. So anyone's got a plat that comes in, anyone's got a new development that they want to come in, we're going to look at, what's the majority of the property, what's that zoning district, will apply those rules. So here, the individual plats for land divisions, currently it says shall not be combined and shall not include more than one zoning district. Here, the proposal is to allow more than one zoning district if you are combining parcels or recombining parcels when they are composed exclusively of residential districts. So if you've got AGC and RSF 40, RSF 40 and RMX 20, you could combine residential districts, but what you couldn't do is have, a GC parcel and combine that with, residential RSF 40. Because then you might get into shell games with people trying to get around having rezoning by just buying property and combining it and expanding their commercial use. So we think we've thread the needle with that to some degree, hopefully. And there's one additional piece in the code that references split zone lots, and that's with rezonings. So this is the existing text, and we're proposing that stay as is, so that if you are proposing to rezone property, that you are not intentionally creating a new split zone district. So you're not going to come in and say, I've got acres, I want half of it to be GC and I want the other half to be RSF 40. So preventing new split zoning districts being created by a rezoning. So we think that's important to keep.
Okay.
And just to give you a scale, we saw the map already. There's over 1,000 parcels that are split zoned. a good majority of those have a higher than 80-20 split between districts, percentage-wise. So, like I said, a lot of those are gonna be, might have a little sliver, maybe it's a map error, maybe over time you just had some road frontage that happened to be in a different district. So that's the majority of it. There are less so, about a third of those split zone parcels that are in the range that's approaching 50-50. And I think something that's important is 3/4 of those parcels are already comprised of exclusively residential districts. So that's a good sign for what we're trying to accomplish, is making this easier without creating new problems necessarily. So that's what I have on that. Open to any questions, and then if you're satisfied with what we presented, we just ask for a vote to move this on to planning commission.
So just so that I think I'm following it, I thought I followed it pretty clear last time, but over on Standifer, where we just did those ones, I know those are split zones. So somebody can come in today, can they subdivide one of those larger properties and then the split zoning will be fixed at that point? Or is this only for recombinations and whatever I saw on that last slide, I forgot what it was.
Yeah, so if you wanted to do a subdivision and create a lot, you could already today subdivide along the district lines. So if you
But those were, those were
Right.
Parallel to the road.
That's right, so
So if
that's
you were
hard to
wanting
do.
to
Right.
split the other way,
So right now you can split on the district lines. You cannot split, so you're creating one or multiple lots that have split districts in them. So this ordinance amendment would allow you to do
but that would allow it. So it would allow for splits and for recombination.
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Because like this gentleman right here purchased 16 acres, but just the corner was where old roadbed was. And it's funny how we talk about this tonight, because it's gonna be a nightmare to try to, but if this passes, he would be all right.
I'm okay.
Okay. Do we need a motion?
Yeah.
Yes, please, if you make a motion, send it on to planning commission.
Motion to send the split zone revision to planning commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, we're going to discuss non-conforming manufactured home replacement.
Yes, we talked about this at the last meeting. Also, you'd asked for a draft text of what that would look like. So here's that proposed text. Really, that first change is a sub-paragraph reordering. But this paragraph B would be the new one, where it would read, a non-conforming manufactured home, whether as a non-conforming use or a non-conforming structure, may be replaced with another manufactured home regardless of dimensions. So really, we're talking going from a single wide, replacing a non-conforming single wide to a double wide, because a single wide you can already do. It was when it gets bigger and you're making that non-conformity worse in concept. That was the original issue, if all other applicable requirements of this chapter are met. So you can go from a non-conforming single wide to a double wide as long as you're maintaining your required setbacks and all those other elements of the site. So this one's very straightforward.
Does this have to go?
No.
I
No, it
mean,
does
I
not.
thought, is this a critical path?
No, it is not a critical path, but it does solve a problem we had come up, I guess it was late last year. And
Bingard,
it could come up again.
Bingard Road.
What the road?
I don't recall. Might have been.
But, this, we had that one example. There could be ones in the future. There's not a lot of non-conforming manufactured homes out there, and the ones that are out there, people either move out, build stick built. We haven't had a lot of instances where someone's looking to replace the non-conforming single with a double, but in the future, this would make that easier.
Yeah, because there are folks that do in my district a lot.
Okay. Do you want to, we need a motion, I'm assuming.
Yes, to send it to planning
This
commission.
goes to
please.
planning commission. All right, motion to send the replacement of non-conforming manufactured homes revision to planning commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Uh,
Okay. how you want to do this?
Did you want to read the item, the order on the business?
Oh, okay. This is regarding the data center standards discussion.
Alrighty, so I'll start off. Council at second reading had some amendments. So I've incorporated those into the draft ordinance. You should have a paper copy in front of you. I sent you a digital copy in advance of the meeting as well. Had to change up the structure a little bit to match the additions that were read off as part of the motion to approve second reading. So I'll just go through what those changes were. So the first one, relatively straightforward. Data center uses through that motion would be prohibited in LI going forward, retaining the special exception for ID districts. So any questions on that change? The second change would be to provide both water and power consumption estimates at the time of application. So when someone's proposing a new data center in the industrial district, they have to apply for a special exception. So this would be information they would provide in their application for staff and board analysis as part of their request for that use on that particular site. So any questions on that? Okay, so following along with the utilities estimates, as part of the application for number 3 here, they would also have to provide a willingness and capability letter, similar to what we have for other projects now. For water and sewer, they would need to provide that willingness and capability letter for both the water provider and for the power provider, stating that they are willing to provide the power that's quoted in the estimate and they are capable of providing. So they would need to have that signed letter from those providers before they could move forward with their application.
Do y'all want to discuss these as we go down the list, or as they're written in the ordinance, or how, what was y'all's plan on this discussion?
Well, being that these haven't been adopted totally, right?
They have.
Yes, they're in,
Those have. Okay, so then I have some things that I wanted to bring up.
Right.
And I don't, Tommy, I'm sure you got some things you want to bring up.
so I was just
And
going
you
to work
got-
down the ordinance,
Okay.
but while you were going through that, I didn't want to interrupt where you were going in your explanation of those particular pieces.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe I'll just cover the
Yeah,
last
a
two.
couple
And then,
left over.
so the fourth one here, very straightforward, groundwater use would be prohibited, so no wells on the site. And the fifth one, this was the more complex one and was the biggest addition language-wise to the text, because it's very specific and it's, you want to make sure you're covering your bases, requiring bonding and things like that, but a decommissioning plan would also be required at application.
Okay. So, mine are just kind of all through here, they're not in any kind of order.
Oh.
So have you got some things that you want?
I mean, I was just, mine are in the order of the actual order here in the ordinance.
Okay.
And I guess the second part of this would be just to ask, do we want to do a vote on each piece individually? Or you want to try to do all of the revisions as one motion? Because I think we all agree on this, taking the special exception out so that it has to come before council and not BZA.
Not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
So I think we'll have to talk about that one.
Okay.
Okay, so do you have anything else besides that one that you?
Yeah, well, I have a whole list. I would figure we could get to them when we, however y'all want to do it.
I'm not sure how to do this because each one of us has
Different things?
different things.
So then, let's take it item by item.
Of our items or on the list?
Let's do it, you have the list, right? Do you have these in a certain order?
This is the ordinance as
the ordinance.
that would be presented to third reading. To get there, unless you all make additional changes. So if you're okay with everything that's in here, you wouldn't necessarily need to make any amendments, but if you have other amendments or you want to amend anything that's in the draft, then yeah, you would read them out one by one.
And if we're thinking those are gonna be different, let's do those one at a time.
Okay, so we'll start here with,
Maybe that's easier to start with the
Like
text on the page and
Yes.
then new stuff after that.
So if we're talking about just direct amendments to what is in this drafted ordinance, let's do that first, and then if there are additional items or changes, then let's go through those.
Okay.
okay. So we'll start with the power, and I think this is the best way. Okay, power needs estimate.
Well, do you want to start back over here? Because this is where it says, talks about the special exception in BZA.
All right. Well, then we need to just read the whole thing.
Yeah, the legislative findings. I didn't have, I mean, that's just basic information.
Yeah, a lot of the, we can go through the legislative findings if you want, but a lot of that is just something that the county attorney's office does to make sure that we're legally
Yes.
covered.
Okay.
It's exciting.
Well, I would think though, having if we kept it in there, at least if we did a moratorium to wait until the state, cause they got all kind of bills passing through there, and make up with our own ordinances, just for the time being while we're waiting on the state. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Well, I
and
have
Mr.
it.
Atkins, sorry to interrupt, maybe that's a good time to talk
I
about
have
those
it.
pieces, just to give you a little bit of an update. So there's a number of bills in the, at the state level, what they've got proposed. To my reading, there's really only one that has any remote shot at being passed this year, and probably not, would be that first one, the Senate Bill 867. And there's a lot of things in there. The biggest piece being they create a new office in DES that would control siting and things like that. They would leave power to the Public Service Commission. They would tier these centers so that the smaller ones aren't as regulated as heavily as the higher scale ones. And it has a lot of things. And really the one bit of overlap that might prove problematic would be decommissioning. So that bill has decommissioning required in it. It has required bonding that would have to be bonded with the state. And as this draft is, that decommissioning bond would be with the county. So that's the only point of conflict. But again, I don't think it's likely that bill is going to pass before the end of the session.
I don't think anything's gonna get passed in this session. So I do have a recommendation on a temporary moratorium on new data centers for 18 months to allow the county sufficient time to complete several things, such as a 10-year comprehensive plan, allow the state to consider the bills before them, which there are even more, as I understand. I even have one that's not up there. The bills before them relating to the regulations, and to allow the retention and consultation with necessary utility providers, such as your water sewer professionals. So that would be my recommendation on a moratorium. But I have other things prior to that, if you kind of want to put that off to the side, the moratorium to discuss. Let's see.
I'm not interested in a moratorium, but I also don't know that are those I know there's very strict requirements for moratoriums. Are those, do those meet those requirements?
So if there are other things you guys want to discuss first, you're welcome to do that. And then if you want to get into specific legal advice on moratoriums, I'm happy to go into executive session and do that.
Okay, that would be a fair way to do it. Okay, so I'll just jump in. So, one thing that has been, that I've been very concerned about is the setbacks, and to make all the increased setbacks in the current proposed ordinance apply to all adjacent parcels, not just residential. But if we can't do that, at the very least, apply it to residential and any parcels that are actively engaged in agricultural activities. And I know that we do have setbacks in here, so.
You're talking about the increased setbacks to
Increased
go to
setbacks.
200 feet from a shared property line.
Quick question. Is it still in the realm of, can we make this apply to all manufacturing and those type of uses in these particular zoning districts? Or because the title is listed as data centers only?
So for this particular item, we are limited to data centers. I would say if we want to make that an item at a future meeting and/or consider that as county council and have that referred here for discussion on any of these items applying to other uses, we can certainly have that discussion and do that.
Okay.
And that's what I'm hearing you say, that you want to pursue something like that.
Well, I've asked for it before. I don't know that, I haven't gotten any feedback from the rest of the council that they're interested in applying these regulations to any other uses. So, we'll just let it lie and hope that nobody decides to build anything worse.
Well, I think that that's where special exceptions comes in, and the fact that data centers are an animal unto themselves.
Not in my opinion.
Okay. Well, each to his own.
That's right.
Okay, so the next, so you got that one down, Laura?
Well, I want to
Yeah.
make sure I'm clarifying
Okay.
that. So are you talking about only related to setbacks, or are you talking about some of the other
I was talking about this
things
whole entire ordinance.
being applicable to more than just data
Yeah,
centers?
to petroleum manufacturing companies, to mining companies, to steel manufacturing, landfills, anything that could be put on ID, LI, BP properties. I mean, why does a warehouse get to be 50 feet from the property line, but a data center can't? Why does Walmart get to have a whole bunch of lighting, but a data center can't?
Now I'm clarified.
I'm sorry.
Well, I guess
I'm
that would,
clarified now.
Okay, you're clarified.
Yes, ma'am.
that would be suited for the surroundings around it.
This
You know.
property, the ID properties allow a whole lot of very intensive uses.
Oh, yeah.
But we're only increasing the requirements on data centers and none of those other way worse uses.
Tackle one.
Yeah, the biggest thing be this here first. This is our,
Well, it's poor governance to pick at little things and fix only, if we can fix all of it at once.
but there ain't very many of those other usages though that put as much strain on the power grid though as
We
these.
can't regulate the power grid, so it
No,
doesn't
we
matter.
can't, but we can try our best to,
Oversee it.
yeah, I mean,
Be
it's
a
federal,
steward of the power grid.
We can't regulate the power grid, doesn't
I
matter.
know we can't regulate. I know all about the power grid.
But at the same time, we don't want to do anything to overload, if we can all help it and not have a situation where people do without power in our county.
It's not our requirement, that's not what we're tasked with. If the electric company says that they can supply the power, I mean, we're not at that point in the ordinance yet, but if
Oh,
they say
yeah.
they can do it,
But they have, well, there's been incidents though where they have said that they can supply and it not come true. That's all over everywhere.
Okay. Can I continue with?
Yes, ma'am.
oh, we didn't finish the setbacks.
Oh.
So, I don't agree with making these larger setbacks on any, I mean, if you're industrial against industrial, why would you have a 200-foot setback against another industrial property?
Well, I think what we're concerned about is setbacks that would be,
To residential.
for residential. I think that's
Well,
more.
that's what's written here already.
And maybe if it helps the discussion, when says, located within a residential zoning district, you see that's all, in all caps, that's a defined term in the code, and that's everything from AGC all the way to RMX 6. So that's anything that allows a residence. So I know you mentioned you were looking to protect agricultural properties, or we can capture AGC as well.
And agricultural areas.
So that, yeah, this section would already protect AGC property.
What I would like to investigate is making the, and maybe it's covered, but because we've got this now in multiple sections, having it an undisturbed buffer around, not a plant, but an undisturbed, so that if there's this, existing trees and stuff there, they have to keep it. So I was thinking like a 75-foot, completely undisturbed.
And by ordinance, the ordinance prefers undisturbed buffers. So-
Prefers, but doesn't require, so.
Well, it is required that if, in order to get something other than an undisturbed buffer, they would have to do an alternative buffer compliance. And they'd have to prove to staff that, oh, well, we're gonna remove this section here because we need to, grade or whatever it might be, and we'll plant it back. And maybe we'll have more of an undisturbed buffer on another side somewhere
But I'd
else.
rather have it just be a pure undisturbed buffer, because out on QTS property, if we had left all the trees in an undisturbed buffer, that would be much better than them trying to replant or build a berm or anything else that they were doing.
Yeah, and right now they have a much smaller.
Right, and I agree with that.
And I would
But
like a
also-
buffer all the way around. I think along the road, they didn't have much of anything. They're just gonna plant it back, but they had a nice buffer at one time.
But they have to can we put in, on the natural buffer like that, that they still have to maintain it if trees die off?
I would want to be, when you drive down the road and you pass a farm.
Just look like the
or
woods.
The woods with dead trees in it or whatever,
That, yeah.
just leave it like that. I think that's the most natural camouflaging way to look at something. The one I use is going down Allison Creek Road. If y'all go down there, they got nice wooded stands of trees on both sides that kind of block out because it was undisturbed and they didn't cut down all the trees. I mean, there's other places around town, but I just have to drive that road every day.
Okay.
But I'd like
so-
to increase it a little bit more than just 75 feet.
Well, I looked at the ones we have. We got 50 feet for subdivisions, and that hides stuff pretty good. I figured an additional 25 feet would get it, but, I mean, I do 100 feet. I think that would be plenty. I mean, 100 feet's a long way, so. nothing
Now,
but
on
wood.
each thing, I'm assuming we need to make a motion.
Yep.
Okay,
So,
so, go for it.
You like 100 feet?
I do. Do you want to go more?
Well, trying to put it in the picture of my mind, how long my driveway is.
I think anything more than that starts eating up a lot of space on properties, because we're not just talking about, at one time, my thought was on have it stepped according to the size of the property. So if you had a 50 acre property, the setback or the buffer might be a little bit different than, because it eats up a lot of the property.
But if we include the 100 feet buffer, and we make, because the building setback's gonna have to be, Jonathan, determining what we make that setback be, could add the difference, right? You got the 100-foot buffer, and then from that line, or the property line to the building?
So you're saying from the buffer?
Yeah, say if we made setback total from the property line, say 200 feet.
Yeah, 100 of it would be undisturbed.
100 of
Allow us
it
that.
non-disturbed.
Right, yeah, you would come at that in two different ways, because they're two distinct things.
Right.
The setback is the distance between the edge of your building to the lot line, and your buffer is how far back your trees go from the lot line to the edge of the buffer. So, most of the time, your setback is gonna be further than your buffer. Well, your buffer for industrial ones are largely gonna be bigger than your setback, so your buildings aren't gonna be allowed to go into that buffer. But for the buffer requirement, they could be a lot closer. So it's in effect an additional setback.
Y'all see any problems?
So maybe if it helps the discussion, as Mr. Linton mentioned, you know, our code currently scales the required buffer according to the lot size of your development, and we've got three buckets. So if you've got property that's less than 2 acres, between 2 and 10, and then 10 and higher. And, you know, right now, QTS is a hyperscale data center. That doesn't mean that you might not have one that comes in the future that's 1 or 2 buildings. That still goes on out there. Less common than the hyperscales in this immediate moment. So just to give you an idea of what those look like. So this first change, one of the first changes in the ordinance would move it to a different section of uses. And so that would require a higher level of buffering. So typically up against residential, it's going to require type D. So for property that's less than 2 acres, that's going to be a 30-foot buffer. If they're between 2 and 10, that's either 75 feet or it's going to be 50 feet with an 8-foot fence. And then for projects like QTS, the hyperscale, that's certainly going to be way more than 10 acres. That's already going to be at, I lost it, but it was 100 feet with a 6-foot fence and 75 feet with an 8-foot fence.
What I was avoiding, but with those buffers, those can be replanted, correct? Or a planted buffer?
The goal is for it to not be, for it to be undisturbed buffer.
Right, but if you want to spend the money, you can go out there and.
And I'll be honest with you, we
blow it
get
out.
very few of those. That,
Really?
yeah, because it's much cheaper to just leave
Yeah.
the trees that you got there, however junky they might be, however forested they might be and hardy, than it is to clear it, buy a bunch of brand new trees and put them in. That's very rare.
So, sound like the buffer covered then, possibly.
Yeah. Make,
Is that what y'all,
Uh-huh.
what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean,
Is that it's already
you know,
covered under the buffer ordinance?
Yeah, I think,
yeah, but it ain't much of it there, QTS.
No, and that's because they're under the current standards where they're in the same bucket as like a medical office.
Yeah, I mean, it's lucky to be 15 feet
Right.
in some spots.
Right,
of
so,
natural tree.
Yeah. So I think the change to move it into the industrial category of uses, plus the additional setbacks for adjacent to residential, which includes AGC and RUD, I think gets you to where you're
So
looking to go.
that would get us covered without having to make a whole bunch of other.
I believe so.
Okay. Well, if you're good with it, then it sounds like it's gets you covered.
So we're going 100 on,
100,
Mhm.
okay. Do I have a motion?
It's already in the ordinance. If we pass this ordinance, it gets
Okay.
passed.
so
It
it's
gets you
good.
where you want.
It's good, we don't have to make a motion, okay. Okay, so.
While we're talking about the setback, Do we have the site plan? I haven't measured the setbacks on the site plan for QTS. Are any of their buildings within the 200 feet? I mean, they seem, all their buildings already seem to be way off the property lines, except for along the roadway.
Don't, all around Hans Mill, they're not within 200 feet, I don't believe. Campbell Road, maybe it gets close. One-
Certainly, if they're clearing that close, but the buildings up.
That's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
cause some places it wouldn't been 75 feet.
No, the clearing is, but I'm talking about the actual, to meet the setback requirements, the buildings are not
Yeah, because
in there.
on the Campbell Road side, I believe there's at least 3 rows of parking, if I'm recalling correctly, so it would be close. I can get that for you if you'd like.
Okay.
Do we get increased setbacks on the road with any of this? I know we talked about, we don't get any. Y'all want to increase the setback on the road? Because I think currently it's 30
I would like to see that.
20 feet.
I think it's 20 across the board for,
Okay.
since it's a right-of-way buffer
Right.
rather than a use buffer.
You don't want to see that one increased then?
100.
Yeah. Which one of those roads is,
Campbell's the one with the convenience center on it.
right, but I'm saying which one would be the closest road to actually,
That one's got the buildings right up on it. Closest to it, but they're not, they're still pretty decent ways away. The buildings are.
because I mean, going down 274, it's a long distance from 274, but it's not much wood there to
Do
those.
we
yeah.
have any kind of picture about the buildings that are currently going up or?
Not on hand for this meeting.
Can you pull it up?
So I would,
Can you pull that?
No, I don't have any access to pull that up.
You got it right.
Am I allowed to take anything?
your meeting, it's your meeting, you can do whatever you
Well,
want.
no, I mean, okay. Well, I mean, they have the picture right there, so I think, can somebody go get it?
What's the is the buffer 20 feet along roads? You don't want to put larger buffer
Make sure it's the right one.
Yeah.
along the road?
So this is Campbell Road. So which,
That's right.
The building is way over here, this is parking lot and stuff. See,
Jonathan,
that's a parking lot there.
you want to make sure they're looking at the right one?
all these, transformers and everything right
That-
there.
There on this gray spot right there.
You ain't looked at it.
When I- Since it got this far, I mean,
Right.
I've been for the.
There's no, just giant overhead power lines right there, so there's no trees, there's nothing there, it's all underneath power lines, so.
Yeah, that's the
it's
compounding
It,
problem.
it's right. If you're coming from Newport, yeah, it's before you get to the, yeah, you can't miss it if you go look at it.
But there's no high there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's big.
Plus, they got to keep certain amount of distance around from away from that, cause if trees fell or tree limbs, you'd be out right quick.
So, when we go to setting up, well, this is not one of mine, so I've got more on the table. But like, something like this, which they do have to cut underneath power lines. That's my Duke Energy training right there. Can we make some type of, an ordinance where power grids like that do not border a main highway? You can't do that?
That's federal. Ain't
What,
it,
they have to
Jonathan?
go to
It's not
road?
within the county zoning authority to do that.
They have to go to the road like that? They have to be on the road?
I don't know what their citing requirements are, I just know that we don't have any ability to review or dictate where they can or cannot go.
I haven't seen very many
So they have
substations that ain't near.
Carte blanche, wherever they wanna
roads.
go.
I don't
As far
think
as the
I've ever
county's
seen
able to control.
a substation that ain't near a road. Cause they can't have no woods or nothing around, cause trees can't
Well,
fall.
I know, they have to, I was just saying, if that was back here,
Well, but the power lines are there, and so
they have to go where the power
have to be where the
lines.
power lines are.
Okay, all right. Okay, so where are we in this?
We're at the.
Oh,
we
setting
want-
back more
from the
from the
road,
road. Okay.
or more of a buffer on the road.
Okay.
Again, it wouldn't be any different than what's out there, but I just thought I would throw it out there because I know it's a.
Okay, what do you think, Tommy? I'm good with making more of a buffer on the.
I'd still like to make it 100 feet.
150?
100 feet.
Oh,
at
100
least.
feet.
Yeah. And in that scenario, because you talking about right there, Andy, right?
Yeah, so the road is right here, this is a whole
Yeah,
parking lot right
parking
there,
lot.
and that's parking lot, so by the time you get to this building over here, you're still well past 100 feet back. They just have to clear all the roads, or all the trees, all the way up to the edge of pavement, except for a little strip of single trees.
Is that part of that natural buffer that we're putting in there?
Well, the natural buffer is only
It's
for property
gone.
lines and not right-of-ways. They do have to plant it back.
So the right of way would have to remain natural also.
Yeah.
The right of way would too.
Yeah, all buffers are required to be natural.
Okay, well, I think it needs to be more than 30.
Well, it's 20, so yeah, it
Oh,
needs to be
20.
there. You wanna,
You want 100?
right,
Do we have larger buffers for other
I squared the thing up.
again, I would prefer to have this on every industry that's.
I know, we're getting
I
there.
know.
Let's just
I'm-
do this
well,
right now. Okay.
So one thing, before you can make a motion and vote on it, one thing I encourage you to consider is, you've got to make sure that you have a clear public purpose for any standard that you might apply, because that's how it survives scrutiny down the road if you're ever challenged on any standard that you might apply. And so just be aware that countywide, any other use is 20-foot right-of-way maximum. Smaller than that, if you allow a smaller lot size. So I'm just looking at that.
That can apply to a lot of things.
Absolutely.
Well, now we're getting.
I mean,
Yeah, hold
don't
on.
even go there with me right now,
About-
so. Okay.
About 50 foot.
I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier.
Well,
Why
let's
can-
don't talk about the moratorium.
Yeah, but why can't we just do that to give us time to figure this mess out, and we're gonna be
Well, but we've
working
gotta
on it the
do
whole
some- We've gotta
time?
put
Well-
some things in place, because the moratorium might take a little while to get that.
Well, we could still be
In place.
working on these ordinances
Let's
while we're
continue
doing
on,
it.
let's continue on.
Because somebody decided they wanted to rush stuff, I don't know.
Go ahead,
So,
make a
yeah,
motion.
50, make a motion to, include a 50,
So that would give us,
that's double what's already allowed, and that might keep us from getting sued again.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's do that.
50 from the road.
Make
to-
From the road right away.
So, all right, second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, now, next. No heat shall be produced through the ground as detected with the aid of geothermal instruments at any point beyond the center property line.
First question is, what is the center property line?
Well, would
You saying the center of the property?
property,
Oh,
the center of the property.
Wait, what? I don't understand.
Okay, you go to
No
the-
heat from the center of the property?
that can be detected with that geothermal instrument.
Do you mean maybe the center point of the property?
Center point of the farm. It would have to be the center point. You couldn't say this is the center point or that's the center point, because that's not the center
Right.
point of the property.
But
It's right
most
there.
ordinances are written to the edge of to the property line, not, you can't do anything outside of your property, so.
State to
Well, this
state.
is a whole different animal. And it's going to,
Not really.
there are issues with this heat
Not really.
as I study it.
Mm,
You're
Well-
not happy with that one? Or you don't understand?
No,
it?
I understand, but no, I'm not happy. I'm not gonna vote to the center of the property for heat. I mean, I would be,
Well, it can be, it could be,
and I don't even know what through the ground, what's through the ground mean? Like, if I dig a hole,
well,
reach
they
it.
use those instruments to detect heat. I mean, I am not the type of engineer, I'm not an engineer that knows about this geothermal,
I'm not a geothermal engineer either.
but I could be married to one. I'm not saying that I
I
am.
think what you trying
I
to
think
say,
you're not. I'm still trying to figure out.
they're going to have their water circulation running through the ground. And you wanting to detect
Any heat.
any heat transfer from the piping to,
I mean, this is a thing. It's a thing.
but won't they have meters and monitors or?
Why would anybody monitor that? How?
Well, on geothermal systems, they do
Yeah.
check that, but it's,
Can you get rid of enough heat in the ground to?
oh yeah,
Get rid of the heat?
yeah,
Yeah, they shouldn't.
a percentage of heat,
Yeah.
yeah. That's how the whole system actually,
As compared to the air, which is more efficient.
I ain't gonna say because on geothermal systems, they can keep climate control the same all year
You
long.
can, you can create, you can use it for heating and that,
Yeah.
but.
I don't know what their coolant
I've
system
never
up
used-
top
seen
looks
it
like
work
if
before.
I'm supposedly doing this closed loop.
In an effort to help, may I ask, what are you trying to achieve with the geothermal measurement?
Because there are actual many data centers all across the country who are being, looked at very strenuously by the community because the heat that it's generating through the ground is causing issues with vegetation dying.
Okay,
And that natural, beautiful buffer that you want, all those trees are gonna be dead. So, that's what, I mean, I'm not saying this one is, because this one is gone. But in the future, we need to put things in place to make sure that we don't have vegetation, or it goes as far as agricultural land that's on the side, or trees that are being grown for Christmas trees.
Man, I could go with a performance standard that it's no more than 5 degrees Fahrenheit on one side of the property line versus the other or something, but,
Well,
I mean, it's gotta be something measurable and it's gotta be,
and I'm sure
impactable.
that there is something more to this that we could add to that. Do you know anything about this, Jonathan, the geothermal?
So, in our research on how other jurisdictions are handling data centers, I've not encountered anything on enforcing ground.
Can we look into this one a little deeper? Because I think it's very important,
Well-
because we do not know anything about the effects of this data center and what it's gonna do to the community or the land around it. All I'm doing is I'm bringing attention to things that are happening in other areas of the country, and they didn't know either. and it was too late for them. We have the opportunity to correct a very bad, a very bad
Just say it
situation.
this way. No change in the degrees of, from their property line or stake to stake of their property line to the border, out of the border. Difference in temperature readings.
I like that.
I don't think there would be, but
Yeah.
I ain't gonna.
I mean, but you just,
That's a long,
you don't know.
that's a long way.
If I may again, to help,
Mhm.
or to keep from going down a slippery slope.
Because I have a few more.
Understood, but I think if we're going to create some kind of a standard or language for this, we would have to rely on some kind of subject matter expertise that maybe the staff doesn't have to verify it, and I'll give you a very brief example. In a previous jurisdiction I worked in, and maybe even here, cell tower siting. And of course, many years ago, cell towers were considered to be or have various negative impacts. But we used a cell tower consultant who knew all about cell tower engineering, who would, verify whether it met the standards of our cell tower ordinance, it was safe, and so forth. With something as highly technical as this, I think we'd have to be very careful on how to script the language in such a way that we can verify information from an independent source, and at the same time, know the kind of measurements or standards that we're looking for. Does that make sense?
I agree with
I
that.
mean, just a quick look, thought about this. I mean, I think it needs to have a depth. It can't be just surface level. It's gotta be like
Well,
a foot deep.
That's why you have
I know, but
geotechnical people doing it.
Well,
You're not, I'm not
you're-
qualified, you're
yeah.
not qualified, so.
we won't. So we
Okay,
need y'all to
so
hire.
can we put this on a wish list or something?
Can y'all
How we-
investigate it for the next meeting?
Yeah, investigation.
We don't need a vote for that. We can just ask for that,
Right,
right?
an
Okay.
investigation.
Yes.
You've given the direction, and I believe the direction is received.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Okay, so all data centers must meet all state laws, conditions, and requirements. Any state requirement passed after the approval of the data center shall require the center to meet the new requirements within 12 months of enactment. So in other words, all these state legislation things, something passes, and we've had a data center to come in and it's gone
Saying
through all the.
update, they
Yeah.
have to update.
They would have to update if new legislation came on board.
What if it's been built and it's 10 years old and a new law is passed?
I think that's one that you all probably will want to direct me to look at and follow, because some of that is going to depend on what ultimately the state legislature does and how they word any laws they pass. So state laws can be passed in a variety of ways. Some of those ways, essentially, the state is taking ownership of a thing and local government is not involved in the regulation of that thing. Some of it is more open-ended, and then you also want to be careful that you don't run into some issue where you're dealing with any potential for something to be retroactive. So that would just take some careful wording and following what the state legislature ultimately does.
Mhm.
And then legal providing an update on the outcome of that legislation.
Okay. So can you
That is noted.
work on that one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is that okay? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, so the data center must provide a satisfactory decommissioning plan and a bond to the county prior to approval to ensure all equipment and the property has no on-site hazards or issues remaining. And I know we have a decommissioning plan here.
I actually wanted to take the decommissioning plan out. I don't agree with it. Don't see a point in it.
Well-
I mean, we don't have that for anything, anywhere, ever. Now, it would've been nice to have that one for, Heritage
Silvat?
Tower. No,
Silvat?
I was thinking Heritage Tower.
No, I think there needs to be one for that one.
Silvat's gonna be in operation
We do have
forever.
two
but-
uses that require a decommissioning plan. It's resource excavation and,
Yeah,
Solar panel facilities.
yes, it's the solar farm.
yeah, to bring them back to,
And that's typical, you would see for a decommissioning plan on something that is using large swaths of earth and it's got implements on it or holes in the ground, less typical for
that has
buildings.
no future use, but we don't, I mean, for one thing, they say they're gonna use them for
Well-
lifespan, but, I mean, well, they can be reused.
So in the decommissioning plan that we currently have, okay, is there language in here concerning, the part that I wanted to put in about the bond?
Yes.
Okay, so pretty much what I've said is everything that I've said in here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
How are you gonna enforce it? What's our enforcement mechanism on a decommissioning plan?
That's a good question.
Well, I think the performance guarantee or the bond,
I
if
mean, that
it's,
one does, with the bond, but
yeah, I mean, enforcing decommissioning, you're kind of hoping that they will abandon the property properly without having to enforce the surety. And of course, the surety's there to make sure that if the company fails to do it, that there are sufficient resources to carry out the decommissioning and abandonment.
well, I don't want no part of that.
How much would the environmental folks anyway be involved, say, especially if they had a fire or something, since all that's a lot of plastic and batteries and all of that, that would be mandatory to a degree, right? For a company to clean up hazardous material.
That fall back to an emergency meeting.
Yeah, I mean, that really falls in the federal regulatory space. You almost got it.
I'm flew in my eye.
Well, I think it's always prudent to have, something for, the county to be able to fall back on. I mean, the bond is very important. If something happens, you never know what's gonna happen.
And that applies to everything that we do at the county. Everything.
Yes, but it's good, we have this chance to do something right. We haven't had that chance too many times. Okay. So what do we do about this? Do we vote on this, or
Well, the decommissioning plan is already in the
it's
ordinance.
already in?
So it's
Unless you
already
want-
there.
Yeah, unless you want to vote to take it
That's
out.
fine.
All right. Okay, so, data centers are responsible for paying all utility infrastructure costs and must provide assurances from the electricity provider that will charge any of the required capital components, will not require any of the capital components to the ratepayers.
We can't
Be
enforce that.
paid.
Say that one more time, Debbie. if you
Let's
don't
see.
mind.
Let's see what the law says.
Do you mind repeating that for me?
Okay, so I think I left a word out here when I was typing. Data centers are responsible for paying all utility infrastructure costs and must provide assurances from the electricity provider that will charge any of the required capital components to the ratepayers. I think I meant not require.
Okay, so I would ask that that is one you give me an opportunity to review when you start talking about who is going to specifically bear the cost with regard to rate making. You're gonna run into Office of Regulatory Staff, Public Service Commission, and even
I
the
have a
Department of
reference
Consumer
here.
Affairs.
It's a bill. It's not one of those. Oh, wait a minute, it is 4583. 4583. So, when whoever wins the lottery up there, whichever one of those, if it's 4583, so that's where we're at on that one. I mean, you're gonna check.
Yes, I'm happy to reach out to those agencies. I know one of those even proposed or contemplated having the consumer advocate get involved in those things to represent ratepayers with regard to data centers.
Right.
So some of that's going to be which, if any of those end up passing, and then I need to touch base with those regulatory agencies to ensure we're not stepping into something that's out of bounds for us completely.
I'm glad y'all were looking at jumping into telling businesses how to run their business.
I'm just going by the
That's a-
legislation.
That ain't gonna pass.
Well, the biggest
If
thing
it passes, we can
is,
address it then, but I wouldn't.
the
not
the
favor of
biggest
it.
thing is I'm sure that whether we realize it or not, to a certain extent, do whenever they're building, that's what you need to find out. What percentage by law does the law allow them when they're upfitting or upgrading or building to cost increase what they're,
You ask an interesting question, Tommy, and I do know a little bit about how that process works. Whenever you have a utility who is regulated under South Carolina law, and they want to invest in new infrastructure, they want to raise rates, change their rate tier structure, there is a process they have to go through to do that. That involves Office of Regulatory staff, who comes in and looks at those requests in a very technical way. You have the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs, which has the consumer advocate, who specifically is allowed to intervene in rate-making cases before the Public Service Commission in order to represent the interests of consumers, consumer ratepayers, before the Public Service Commission. And then ultimately, that commission sits as the deciding power for here's a rate that's acceptable, or the rate increase you've requested is inappropriate, and or here's why. There's a lot that goes into that. That's why I said, for what Debbie was suggesting, that I need to ensure whatever we do is not something that would cause us to run into conflict with those agencies.
So this part is going to depend on 4583. And what happens there?
Part of it, yes. And then to the extent, what if any power or authority does the local government have in that process is also a question I'm hearing you want me to answer.
Yes. Okay. Maximum height, I would propose that we change that to 60 feet. We raise this to 80 feet, and it needs to be returned to 60 feet.
No.
Tommy, what do you think?
I'd be all right with that because I've been looking and I swear to goodness, I ain't found any of the other ones that have been built that are 80 feet. How tall, Tom, was that one y'all went and looked at? Was it 80 feet?
The one in Atlanta, I can't tell you specifically. I had been asked about a month ago about a QTS center in nearby Fayetteville, Georgia. Their zoning requirement was 60, but they permitted QTS in Fayetteville to have a 15-foot variance, hence 75 feet. You know, based on just eyeballing it, when I went to the Atlanta site, there was a portion of it, or portions, easily over 60 feet.
Okay, so do we need a motion on this one?
And I think if you're gonna look at that, again, I would recommend you look at Piers again. I mean, when we talked about this last time, there were reasons behind it, and I would just beckon this committee back to those reasons. As a reminder, at least.
Yeah, we chose it for a good reason already.
Well,
Because they were worried about the coolant fans, wasn't it?
yeah.
I
But
mean,
the technology is changing so fast. So do I have a motion on this, that we go back to 60 feet?
Yeah.
I second. All in favor?
no.
All opposed? Sorry. Okay, noise. I would like that we would require a study to determine if a reduction in the standard noise level requirement should be required. So in other words, a study on the noise, and it should be a requirement that there is a study for the noise.
Well, I heard you, so there is a requirement for a noise study in this ordinance, but I think I heard you say a study to see if the standard noise level should be reduced.
Yes, yes.
So help, walk me through that. What would that look like? Who would make that determination?
Well, again, all the talk with data centers, the big talk, is that humming. And I think that as we go along in this process, I just feel very strongly about this, that it's one of those things that people probably would have never agreed to something like this in that area had there been more research on that. And I think we even had some folks come, doctors, I think, or pediatricians came and talked with us about the effects to the brain on this constant humming. And like I say, I do know that there are other areas of the country that are severe, that are really looking deep into the effects of the humming on children, babies, everybody, older adults, pets.
So this isn't an ordinance thing, this is more of a, planning commission needs to do a study for the whole entire, for the ordinance in general.
Laura, what do you say about this? What is your say?
So we're talking separate and apart from the noise standards and the noise study required that is already in here. You're asking for it to specifically look at potential health impacts
Yes,
related to the humming.
yes.
Y'all ever undertaken a study like that or working in one?
How do you get your determination on that? Because, I mean, there's a lot of different companies. I mean, my goodness, the wastewater treatment plant can drive us crazy just the churning. How do they determine that?
So, as this study requires, you have to have an acoustical engineer perform the analysis. And what they're doing is taking the design that's presented to them from the firm and saying whether or not it complies with the standards of the jurisdiction that they're trying to meet. So, you know, as part of their study, they might initially say, okay, well, looks like you're okay over here, but in this area, looks like you might be in breach of the local ordinances. And so that design firm is gonna add some sound mitigation to their design, and they're gonna keep going back and forth until their acoustical engineer is able to submit, I would think, a study that will be able to approve that would meet county standards. So one thing about sound is it doesn't necessarily matter who the producer of the sound is, whether, you know, it's an animal, it's a vehicle, if it's machinery, if it's equipment, whatever the sound source is, the sound produced is going to have the same impact when it's at the same levels. You know, when it's leaving a property and impacting somebody else on another property. So I wouldn't think you want to have a separate and distinct noise requirement for one use over another, because sound is sound. It's going to bother you, like I said, whether it's an animal or it's some other place. So, you mentioned maybe looking at the county noise levels wholesale rather than just specifically for data centers. I would suggest that might be a better analysis of looking at are our current noise standards appropriate?
And plus, if we get the 100 foot of trees around there, that's gonna change that, I would think, too.
I don't think so.
Huh?
I don't think so. I mean, I heard a horror story.
I don't know, it changed my
yesterday.
sawmill running, didn't it, Carol, when I moved?
Well, if we go down this rabbit hole, you aren't getting a sawmill anymore.
Oh, I'm
What?
gonna run my sawmill.
Until code enforcement comes out there and writes you.
Yeah, give her a little, the acoustic noise study.
It's already in here.
Yeah, that's in there.
And it's already in it says it's already in the public nuisances part, so this is just doubling up on what's already required, right?
So, yeah, what is new in the original draft was the requirement to do a noise study to demonstrate prior to getting approval of your permit that what you're going to construct will comply. Now, they're always required to comply. So you're right, that language is not new, it's just reminding them in this
So
section
it is-
specifically that they have to
It would be
comply.
required before they get their
That's right,
permit.
yeah, to do the noise study.
But
So then to the extent we're talking about
whoever originally set that standard,
then that would be in the same vein as setbacks and applying those to something more than data centers. So they can make that recommendation, that we look at that, and then we can follow up with county council as a whole before that came back to the committee, because a study like that, I imagine, would take some time.
whoever
costs money.
set, who originally sets that acoustic,
I'm not paying for
Yeah,
it.
the
They wanna be here.
sound
They
limits,
will.
they've been around since the 60s. And they're really helpful for when you're near an airport, because that's the loudest sound generator you can have for the most part. And they're really kind of static across the country. I mean, they haven't changed in decades. They're pretty much uniform. The only thing that's different is, are you at 65 or 75 at the upper level is kind of where a lot of jurisdictions deviate. Do you allow variances for certain types of activity, say like mowing your lawn, for example? In the county ordinances, you can go up to 85 while you're mowing your lawn. Because lawn mowers, they got loud engines, got bush hogs, that type of thing. So that's where jurisdictions might have a little daylight between them, but by and large, they're almost uniform nationwide for sound. And sound is nuisance, so while it can be mentioned in zoning, it's really kind of a nuisance concept, and nuisance law is its own web of spiders, as Laura can tell you.
I'm not interested in messing with
who
it.
determines
I'm not
the
interested in messing with
nuisance?
it.
But it's already in here.
And that's exactly why nuisance law is so complicated, is who decides how much is too much for someone to bear. It's very complicated.
And for what duration?
I got a feeling that some of the bills that are not up there, because I've been talking to some of the legislators, and I mean, I got a list, and it could be that something will come out about the noise in a bill, so.
Do you pay attention to the state house? They get a lot of bills, and most of them don't go anywhere.
That is very true. Okay. So we're down to a recommendation that I would like to make to county council, and that is that we've got a couple of these conditions that we talked about, that you're gonna do additional study and come back with some information on. And I think that was the, was it the heat?
Yeah, for planning staff, that was gonna be investigating ground heat.
Yes.
And you had a couple of items for Ms. Dover.
Okay. So besides the couple of items that you're gonna check into, then I would also have these added to the current ordinance, requiring a special exception for any new data centers.
Yeah, that's in the ordinance.
And that's in here, yes. And we keep it in. You gonna say something?
Well, no, I'm waiting for you to go through your list so I can do
Okay.
my list.
I thought you said you didn't have anything.
No, I have a whole list.
Okay, okay. So, now we're to moratorium. Tom, do you want to talk about your moratorium?
Yeah.
Okay, talk.
Well, I just think that it'd be a good idea. I take it that we got to do this study or whatever, or is that actually how does the moratorium work, Lon?
I make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss moratoriums
Okay.
and get legal advice.
Second.
Okay. So, what's your
We're
item?
gonna stop,
vote on it.
we got to vote.
You need to vote on it, going into executive
Yeah, we
session.
got-
Oh, okay. So do I have a motion?
Said the motion.
Okay,
Second.
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 All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, y'all.
Okay, we're out of executive session, and so we have some things. No action was taken. So,
Yeah.
okay,
Um,
we're ready.
I just have a couple more items. I covered a lot of mine with Debbie's. The main one is taking the data centers out of being a special exception and not putting them in the hands of the BZA, leave them as, or putting them back as, by right, we'll have to vote on rezoning because there's not that many locations currently available. Anybody? No?
I like special exception.
I'm not in favor of having an unelected board that has no ties to this making these decisions. These decisions really need to come before us, and we should be making all of those decisions. All right.
I've said my thing. I mean, I'm
No.
gonna,
There was no motion or second, board, so Tommy didn't say, so I assume that we're gonna leave that one. All right, how about, I was interested in leaving them in light industrial too.
oh. I
Yes,
guess you know my
no.
opinion.
I know what your opinion is.
The few-
There's no comments.
No? All right. We covered this power, we're gonna investigate, what we can do related to the power. The one thing I would like to add, so I would like to, I guess, make a motion that we do not, or we prohibit data centers from generating their own power.
If we do that though, how would we, could it be worded in there for the regulation of the power being?
So, yeah, you could have language in there that they would be prohibited from power generation on the site. Now, they could,
But I'm
contract with
thinking
somebody
Andy's
else.
saying if they generate their own power, letting them generate. their
No,
own
I
power.
don't want prohibited.
You don't want them-
No, that's been one of the major issues.
Oh,
with a lot of
yeah,
these is
I go right
they're
along with
putting
that,
up
don't,
those
no, Lord,
methane
no, it's too
plants.
hard to regulate that.
Right, so my motion is to prohibit data centers from generating their own power.
Yeah, I'm second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. I have a, more of a question, it's a general question. The low water cooling systems, it seems kind of specific in what's written. And because this is an ordinance, are we gonna force them into something? Can it be written a little more broadly? In case there's some new technologies that come out, I don't really wanna force them into air-cooled closed loop. If there's something better.
Yes, and I agree with your premise there, so there's a second part of that that rolls on to page 4. So it says, data center uses shall employ air-cooled closed-loop chiller systems or other cooling systems that similarly use minimal
Right.
water resources. The proposed cooling system shall be detailed in the application. So they have to describe in their application for a special exception what type of they're gonna have, and the other section requires that they state how much water they're gonna
Right. So you think it covers it fairly well?
Yep.
Now, we are talking about things in the county. If there are, what if Rock Hill decides they can supply the water for a regular cooling system? Do we want to stop them from doing that?
the ordinance would effectively prohibit
I know,
that.
but do we want to do that? And since we're the controller of the water in the county, what if we decide we want to, that we can supply, because this would be for all data centers, what if there's a small one or something else that would actually, that we could sell to? You know, we're in the business of selling water, so.
Yeah, but I'd rather them have to. That's getting, you never know. 1 minute you got water, 1 minute you may not have.
But that's what all the water utilities are there to do, is to check that they have that capacity, and they'll be able to supply
Right.
this completely.
But I don't think that they really know at any given time I mean, you can say I got plenty of water now unless they're going to do reservoirs and stop, I mean.
No, we know, we
it-
know. I promise, we know. At least in the Catawba River Basin, we know how much water we have and how much we can
Oh, I know
supply
you know how
and
much
all
you
that.
have, but I mean, continuing drought though, you don't know how much you have.
We've got long-term forecasts that, I mean, unless we go into something way beyond, historical.
Cause
drought.
what is it, Duke's got to keep what, a certain level themselves.
Their level is way, way below what creates issues for the water supply, for the water utilities. I was just curious, are we willing to limit water utilities from selling water if they say that they can? It's only a question.
So are you asking us out, like we should get the right of first refusal?
I'm only asking, is it a thing that we would look at? Or is it, you know, and do we want to limit another utility like Rock Hill from selling the water in the event that they were able to? There's probably not a site anywhere that's close to Rock Hill's water system, and they're probably gonna say, no, they can't supply it. But I'm just saying, is that a possibility? Should we be limiting?
But now, how much, I wonder, does that create on the after effects of the runoff or the cooling? You know, those systems that are set up like that, do they have set up aeration filter ponds where it returns back to, or does anybody know? It's another one of these don't nobody know.
I've only seen a few places that had spray ponds to cool their water and then reuse it. I mean, it is a possibility, and I would do that before I just spent umpteen dollars buying more and more water. It's just a question. I ain't fighting for it. I don't care that much. I just wanted to ask.
Now, let's leave that alone.
All right. Groundwater prohibited. Can we, is that something we can actually do? Can we, what if the state, or DES approves wells? Can we
I'd sure
prohibit them from
prefer
that?
they not be able to get aquifer water. I done went through that struggle.
Do y'all know?
So, you know, if they were to get a permit from DES, you know, they would be in breach of our ordinance, so we could put them under violation for the zoning ordinance. But as to whether, you know, which one controls,
Right.
if they, state issues a permit and the local jurisdiction says you can't have that particular type of permit in our jurisdiction. That's the answer to that.
Potentially, so that's one I would need to look at. What specifically does the state law say? Does it preempt us or prohibit us from doing something stricter than them? Or do they leave that open and say, hey, here's the standard the state sets, local government, if you want to build on that and make it stricter, go for it. I just need to look at that and get you an answer.
Yeah, can you look into that?
Yes, sir.
The equipment noise mitigation, again, we're in some pretty specific requirements, can we just put performance standards on it instead? You know, if they come up with some other method of attenuating noise or canceling out noise, do we really want to put specific, those things like you gotta use a louvered or solid wall or?
Yeah, you certainly could.
You mean
I
if
just-
they
I
come
just
up with
wanna allow-
upgrades, a way to
In
lower
case there's a
noise?
different way, you know, they're gonna do a sound study, which they're gonna propose ways to do this. Do we really need to tell them, here are the
I mean,
only
I'd
ways
be
you
open
can
for
do it?
any way they could quieten them down even more, yeah.
But, I mean, maybe there's a better way than what these particular ways are specified. We might-
How would you word that? New and innovative?
Yeah, you got a trade-off there, so, it might be that they've got, a strategy or just pure distance that they could abide by, the sound standards and not exceed any of the limits. And then these criteria would dampen the sound even further, so keeping it
Right.
well below. Or, they could have to do these particular items, with the louvered walls on the roof or enclosing, and they're still not there. I kind of doubt that those two things wouldn't get them there, keeping the sound down, but it's certainly possible that they'd need to do other things as well. So it's kind of that trade-off. Do you want to keep them well under, adding some flexibility? Because if you add the flexibility, they might be closer to the maximum, without these elements in it, in theory.
Well, that's the reason we have those things. I mean, I'm not in the business of just adding unnecessary costs just because. So, y'all interested in the noise mitigation, either just putting performance standards on it instead? Which are already kind of covered in the rest of our ordinance?
I mean, I personally do not think we can have enough mitigation on noise. I don't think that's
So
possible.
what if they got a better way of doing it? I mean,
And who
they're,
knows when that might happen?
well, I'm not saying,
I mean,
they may
is
have it
that
now.
5
We just
years
don't.
from now,
No, they may have
or-
it now, we don't know. I mean, we're only as smart as the other ordinances that are written,
Well, then
that we copied.
Laura, what do you think?
So let me make certain I'm understanding you, Andy. You're saying if someone has a better way of dampening noise and or keeping it lower than what is required right now, do we want to allow them to do that? Do we
So-
want to allow them to present that?
So they've got to meet, I'm gonna make up a number, I didn't memorize the noise ordinance. Let's say they gotta meet 70.
Okay.
They're gonna do whatever it is to get to 70.
Mhm.
So, if they do a louvered wall, or they have something else they use, I mean, maybe plant trees around them, bushes on the top of their building, I don't know what they're gonna do, but maybe they have a different way of meeting, so I would rather just have performance standards. You have to meet this level, and leave it at that, and let them come up with a way to meet that level.
Or you
Let
could
them-
say you have to use these materials except if you can make a showing that you're able to, fall further below whatever that limit is?
Or to get to that limit. I
To
mean,
allow for that innovation, if someone says, hey, if you let us use this material, instead of coming in at a 69, we're gonna be a 50.
Right.
To the lowest level.
But they're
Yes.
not gonna, I mean, they're likely to, whatever they do is gonna get to 69 to stay right in this rule. Nobody's gonna go really above and beyond.
Unless what these two requirements
Right.
already would force them to be well below the 69.
But even that doesn't have, I mean, sound deafening materials could be a 1/4 inch thick and wouldn't do anything at all.
But-
So
but-
we don't have any performance, we don't make them actually show that they're doing anything. It's just there for looks. Could be.
But you said, Jonathan, those numbers they're required to meet now are the standard?
Yeah,
for everywhere,
countywide standard, yes, sir.
on everything.
Yes, sir.
Wife yelling, whatever. Same thing.
Yes, sir.
And are you asking what difference does it make what materials they use if they get to
Yeah, as
the?
long as they get to that standard, what does it matter? Why do we care? Why are we putting very specific things when, and not allowing anything outside of that? I just don't like putting
I would defer to Mr.
specifics
Warren on
to
that.
those type of.
Yeah, it's up to you, how you want to approach that. I think the way to accomplish what you're trying to do text-wise would just be to eliminate equipment noise mitigation, sentences A and B. And I think that gets you.
Well, I wanted to talk about C a little bit. So it says, in the event of emergency, testing and there's backup power. I know that Duke and in other places have put in there for them to run their generators in the event that they need more power. So would that be counted as an emergency, or is that a less contractual?
Sorry.
So you're saying that they've got a contract with Duke, that if Duke needs power, they ask UTS to run, or any other does?
So their contract, I talked to Sandy Martin, I was at a meeting with him, and he said their new contracts have disconnect for portions where they tell the data centers to run their generators in the event that they need power generation, either so that they can save their power generation, pull it off of the facility.
It's no longer emergency.
Yeah,
That is an interesting
Yeah,
question.
I've not heard that
Or do you
kind
wanna
of
put-
scenario before.
So they did it, I don't know where it was out west during the, they were running out of electricity, they cranked up all their generators and boosted the grid to supply power.
They put line power in the back.
Right.
Yeah,
Again, that could be
It's kind of an emergency.
an
but is it-
emergency case.
But does it qualify as emergency? Or can we put in there contract unless contractually obligated to?
Well, we don't necessarily want to.
I don't want to be in their contract, but.
Right, so I don't know that we want to use that, but what I want to do is look at what authority does the utility company have in order to make those decisions. So are they making those decisions because the state has said, utility company, you are best placed to decide, okay, you guys need to run on a generator
Mhm.
so we can redirect and do power this way for whatever period of time. I'm happy to look at that.
Were you looking to
Yes, sir.
what we can do with their, I just don't want to limit their options.
Yeah, if there's a
Or put
legitimate
them in-
need for the
yeah.
utility company to do those things,
Yeah.
I understand.
But see, for them, boy, that had to be some pretty technical dealings going on there, because, you know, right now, you have to isolate out between,
But if you don't.
because they
they're-
could kill a lineman right quick.
Right, but if they just needed a little boost to the system, and it's, I could see this happening, and it's cheaper to get them to crank up their generators than it is to buy power from the grid, you know, the national grid. I could see them saying, hey, for the next 3 hours, I need you to run your generators.
Contaminates.
Yeah, and I know utility companies do studies on those things, especially when they're looking at peak hours, pulls on the grid and pulls on their system. So I can certainly look at that and report back to you guys.
But I know good and well that they can muffle the sound of those generators down to the point that you can't
Oh,
hear
yeah.
them. I done worked on too many of them.
Let's see, so that, the vibration, should we have, some performance standard for that? It says perceptible, but that, perceptible to who?
Yeah, so that's already in the county's performance standards.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh,
it is.
okay. I mean, it says it there, but I've never seen the actual vibration portion.
Yeah, so I believe it says detectable without the use of equipment. I believe that's the language. So, you know,
Well,
if you're,
What
if you're.
does that mean?
So if you're standing on the property line, on the, say, a neighboring property, and you can feel the ground vibrating, and, you know, you can reasonably attribute that to coming from that site, that would be,
But what if you can feel it, but Josh can't?
what do you mean? So, so if we're enforcing it, it would be the code enforcement officer that would have to detect.
So if he feel, but if code enforcement officer A can feel it, but code enforcement officer B has, I don't know, some leg problem, they can't feel it.
I would
Is
say
there-
that most folks have the same level of being able to detect, you know.
I'm just asking if we should have, I hate subjective things like that, and I only ask that should we have a performance standard or or have something that actually measures on the ground? And how much of a machine, I don't think we need a seismograph, but
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you right now, if a 50-ton shoot-foot roller's rolling, me and you both know.
oh, yeah. Yeah, when
They put it
run-
on vibrate, you can feel it 300 feet away.
They can, and when they run when they run our little 5 or 10 ton one, we can feel it, but I'm just,
You got a wood leg.
not yet. So I just wondering, do we need a performance standard legally, or is this subjective?
So subjective is not the word I would use. Discretion is the word I would
Discretion,
use.
there you go.
Because when you have code enforcement officers and animal control officers, those folks are commissioned to do those very things, appropriately use their discretion in those situations. Does that in any way say that you guys can't decide, we want a measurable standard? Certainly you can. And then the question is, what is the standard and how do you want it measured?
Right. All right,
Are
I'm
there-
asking y'all now.
Okay, no, I'm asking them.
Okay.
I'm not asking you.
Congratulations.
I'm tired. Okay, so surely by now, somebody has done a study on noise vibration from data centers.
I mean, you mean like nationwide, someone doing some analysis?
Someone. I mean, there's too much information out there.
Well, each user is gonna
Ask
be different.
ChatGPT, I'm sure they'll tell you.
It'll just make up a number.
Well,
Somebody,
yeah.
But that's used in the data center.
Well, I'll say a couple things, because each user is gonna be different, right? So, some folks are gonna have ground cooling, some are gonna have a lot of the cooling interior of the building, they're gonna be rooftop, so where they're putting their apparatus is gonna be, it differentiates how much vibration there's gonna be, if any, leaves the site. So they're all gonna be site-specific, all design-specific, so it's not even data center exclusive, that's kind of county-wide, and that brings me to my other point, is the performance standards are for any industrial use. So it's across all industrial users in the county. So if you'd like to take a look at vibration and adding a more defined standard into vibration, I would recommend
Take it to committee.
examining the performance standards and not looking at it as a data center-specific
Yeah.
topic.
So that one would go with what you mentioned early on, that you would want some of these things to be applicable to that zoning district, and that sounds like it's a good candidate for that.
okay. So we need a motion on that one? Or
No, I think,
just stay with the,
I think it's something that's brought up during the council non-agenda items. We would ask for it to go back
Yes.
to a committee and get
Okay.
people.
all right.
Let's see, do I have anything else? I think that covered everything I had. It wasn't too bad.
What?
Have you got anything else?
No, I'm about, got all the way through this thing. I mean, I don't know how much other stuff you can.
So I think that we do we have a summation of everything? We've talked a little bit about what we talked about that I need to.
I believe we have a summation here. I want to make certain that I'm understanding where the committee is. Certainly, we have already invoked pending ordinance doctrine on this, so the revisions that have already been made, made prior, which have been made after the other data center was constructed. Those are already in effect. You guys have done the pending ordinance doctrine. I have a list of things, some of which apply to Mr. Buono, many of which apply to me, that you guys will want us to report back to you as soon as possible on.
Yes.
I would say as soon as you want to get another meeting on the books, I will have those items clarified and ready to go. And I would ask Jonathan what his thought is on that, but certainly we will work to get those things done. Because I would anticipate you guys also want to see the revisions you have approved tonight in red line version in order for this to go back to county council as a whole.
Right.
So that they can see, I think we have several revisions you guys will want to see, and then we send those right back to county council, and then we can keep that ordinance moving forward to its final step, and then cover all these bases you guys want covered. I want to make sure we do the legwork on those legal aspects of it.
Okay.
There were several research elements in there, but the two items I have as definitive changes to the text are to add a 50-foot buffer from the road right-of-way and to reduce the height limit to 60 feet. So essentially, that would just be removing the additional height because that's the height limit in ID, and the use is, in this ordinance, only allowed in ID.
And obviously, we're going to continue to track what the state does. I know I will be reaching out to Office of Regulatory Staff, Department of Consumer Affairs, and getting some feedback on them on some of these items. There are some issues for compliance with state laws and just looking at the proposed legislation that's out there and seeing if we're dealing with a limitation issue, that we don't run into any issues where we are overstepping into what the state is trying to do. So we want to work in coordination with them, essentially, let them do their thing, and then let the county build on that wherever we can. I have the groundwater prohibition. I need to look at that, whether that's a stricter standard or whether we can do a stricter standard or the state has preempted us. Generator use limitations, that's something we're going to be looking at. And then the studies Jonathan mentioned. And the rate-making aspect of that is what I said I would look at and follow up with ORS and Consumer Affairs on. Make sure we're moving in the right direction on those things so that when we get this ordinance back to county council, we're headed in a direction you guys all feel comfortable.
Forgive me, I missed one of my notes on the text changes. You had also voted to prohibit data centers from generating their own on-site power.
Yes. We've got a list of items we need to work on
Yes.
quickly.
Yeah, but that one will also tie into hers with the whole emergency. In an emergency, they can do it or as required,
Yep.
whatever.
And so I really feel like that we've accomplished a lot tonight in the fact that I knew that we've made some changes, but I was very anxious to really get stronger requirements on board here. So we'll get the next meeting set up pretty soon so that we can get this thing to council.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, do I have any other items or anybody else want to say anything? A word of prayer? Is it a word of prayer? Okay, so, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Okay.
All in favor? Aye.
Uh.